Sammy, thank you for hopping on the podcast today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I can tell right off the rip that you were busy already because to tell you the truth, I have never sent a, Gmail calendar invite in my life.
Really?
Literally never. And then once I had to send that to you, I was like, oh, she's got it. She's got her organization. She's got everything,
It has
planned
to
out and
be. Yep.
stuff. Oh
Yep.
yeah. No, but yeah, I know we originally connected on Instagram and we kind of uh, vibed because of like the whole hybrid, new concept of like training and stuff like that. And then we also did connect on like a faith level. We both kind of realized and saw that I was like, oh, they're pretty like faith driven athlete and stuff like that. And when I was looking through your content, I was like, oh man, she didn't just like do a high rocks or something. I was like, you had some pretty cool business content and a lot of really good wisdom I found in a lot of the content. I was like, man, I bet she'd be super interesting to talk to. So, all in all, that's kind of what went into planning and getting you on the podcast today.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I try to diversify myself a lot, being a former athlete, trying to find that next thing while still keeping that, athletic niche. So it's been good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. The high rocks will challenge you in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
So I do notice that you connect a lot with like the athlete portion of things and stuff like that. What type of adventures and what kind of things do you typically do? Being like a former athlete and like stuff like that. I hear you speak a lot on how business is connected to being an athlete and such and stuff like that. So, how does that connect for you?
Yeah. How does business connect to being an athlete?
Yeah, in a lot of the things you speak of, I would say it resonates pretty well in the connection.
Yeah, yeah. So, I personally feel like being an athlete prepares you for just about anything in the world after. So, it's really just how can I take this skill set that I gained mentally into whatever that next arena is, which is why I named my business Arena Transfer, because the same skill sets do transfer, right? So, going into business, I realized, wow, if I just apply my skill set of leadership, being a captain my whole life, the discipline of having to show up, being coachable, all those things. If I did that in business, I could be successful, and it really did translate super well. I try to just be an athlete in life. I think that's super important. If you can keep the discipline, you can hold yourself accountable and constantly have that growth mindset, then you can win. So that's just always my focus. How can I be an athlete in life?
Gotcha. So, what kind of athletic background did you have, and what did you do, and how early did that kind of start for you?
Yeah, so I played basketball my whole life. I decided to go all in on just being a basketball athlete when I hit college or when I hit high school. Had a great high school career, lots of records, leading scorer of my high school, all the things. Ended up actually going D2, so my D1 dreams were pretty crushed. But D2 was I realized was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. So went D2, lived in Nashville, got to start be a starter and a captain as a freshman, which was really cool. And then I just went through a lot of mental battles at that school. Ended up transferring after my sophomore year. Transferred to Thomas More, and we had a incredible 2 year run while I was there. I was a national champion my junior year, and then we got national runner up the second year. So being there really just grew me as a person. I was quite humbled going from, being a captain and a leader to not joining this new team and not having as big of a role. But again, just all learning lessons that carried into life after sports so well. So yeah, basketball was kind of the thing that got me going.
Nice. Well, I mean, it sounds like they were thriving significantly, during those
Yep.
times and stuff like that. So how did that transition work for you? Once you kind of, stop playing basketball and stuff like that. From my personal experience and like friends and stuff, like sometimes that can be a difficult transition. Used to being into that kind of dynamic and sports heavy, So how did you find that transition going from college, heavy basketball, and that was your life and kind of everything into moving on to other ventures, and then what were some other ventures you pursued along the way? Unless you hit it on the nail the first time, when it
Definitely
comes to
didn't do
things.
that. Definitely didn't do that, but it was hard. I mean, I think you can prepare as much as you want, and it's still challenging because your identity is so tied up in being an athlete, and your identity is so performance based when you are an athlete. You definitely carry that into life a little bit. So when I got done with basketball, I thought I was prepared, and I was probably more prepared than others, but I still like I would even say to this point, there's times where I'm like, man, I'm still trying to find myself without the sport, right? But I think the transition's hard, just finding identity after. I did a lot of I think my faith helped me in that, just realizing, look, I'm a child of God. God's going to create the next path for me, all of that. But in terms of ventures, when I left or when I got done with basketball, I actually have two incredible mentors in my life that offered me the opportunity to live out in Dallas with them. And they basically just poured into me from a spiritual, business, sales, everything perspective, and that changed the whole trajectory of my life. Like,
Mm.
the lessons they've taught me, I think about every single day. They showed me a vision, they showed me what I could create. So I've always been entrepreneur minded. My family is very entrepreneur minded. I come from a business based family. I First thing I went into was more of like a supplement route, and in the sales world, and it was a great product. I just wasn't passionate about it. Ended up trying to start up a marketing organization. I realized a lot goes into it that I didn't care to do, so I didn't get into
Okay.
marketing. Then after that, I started arena transfer. College athletes are broke. It's kind of hard to ask for a college athlete to pay you anything. So that ultimately, the original version of arena transfer failed. And then I found this niche in finance and insurance. And I was like, wait, this vehicle is legit. There's tons of successful people in here. Every person I've met here is a former athlete. Maybe this is the vehicle that I use to help athletes find that next arena. And it's been amazing. Like, that's been what stuck. I've been able to build a very large organization doing that, and I've had so much fun doing it. So I've really found my purpose in this field.
Mm. Man, I can tell you're saying you just had that constant driving, even though you didn't get it right the first time, due to having that athletic little drivenness to you, and then also being poured into properly. All kind of comes into play and stuff like that.
Yeah.
What are some main attributes would you say go hand in hand that helped you, that you already had, but also characteristics that you had to develop along the way on your venture to your business?
After sport, you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, so traits that I would say transferred very well from sport to business would be the discipline, no questions asked. Actually, being coachable, I think, is the best trait you can have, whether it's sports or business, because why would you reinvent the wheel when somebody can just teach you how to do exactly what they did to be successful? If I want to know how to win a national championship, I'm going to go to my coach who's won three and I'm going to ask. If I want to know how to be a deca millionaire, I'm going to go to my mentors who have created it and ask them how to do the same thing, right? So, coachable, being disciplined, and hands down leadership. Leadership is so important. You got to know how to delegate, you've got to know how to lead different kinds of people. Not everybody's the same, and a team has to have a visionary. In the Bible, it literally talks about, without a vision the people will perish. As a leader, you have to be very good at portraying that to your organization, right? You've got to constantly show them the vision. It doesn't matter if you got punched in the face and lost $50,000 that day. It doesn't matter if you're on a mountaintop and you made 100,000, right? You've got to figure out, how am I going to pick it up, put the team on my back, and continue to go. So discipline, coachability, leadership definitely helped me in the transition. Skill sets that I would say I've gained after that are super important. Number one is honestly just having the hard conversations and showing up for myself. I think a lot of athletes struggle with that because we kind of just always do what people tell us to do. It's not like if a coach says something we disagree, we're just going to bluntly say that most of the time, right? So we're so used to just being told what to do, going with the flow, not really sticking up for ourselves, right? In business, it's different. You've got to know, like, have boundaries and be respectful. But if you deserve something, or you can do better somewhere else, you have to do what's better for yourself, right? So just knowing how to stick up for myself, also say no to things that might look pretty, but they're not the right thing for you. I've had to narrow my focus a lot. In the beginning, I tried to do a million things. A million things don't work at all. You stay very
Just
average at all of them. So I
spread
had
too
to get
thin.
really, yeah, I had to get really good at cutting out distractions. And then lastly, just business acumen. I mean, business isn't easy at all. You have to wear so many hats. You have to know a lot of analytical things. You got to be a strategic thinker, things like that. So more just business language in general, I had to learn as well.
Gotcha. So when you do look back, like, on your process, and, you're obviously still going through the process and you're constantly growing and developing, um, what does that look like from a humble perspective? I do encounter a lot, like, when people are pursuing a lot of their own personal goals, including even me, like, even just, like, posting workouts or doing podcasts, it's very, very easy to get caught up in being very prideful and very about yourself and I can do this, stuff like that. So what has helped you? I do notice, I'll point it out, is like you have done journaling, and you do journal quite a bit, right? Like I notice sometimes
Yeah.
you'll do, I'm like, oh man, I was like, and I've always heard journaling can be helpful for clearing the mind. So would you say when it comes to also spending your time in your faith, but and your business and stuff, what habits and what things have helped you maintain, I guess, your head and composure with balancing a million things that you have to do, all kinds of Google, calendar invites and Gmail calendar invites and stuff like that, what keeps you grounded in your habits?
Yeah, so to the part about humility, that actually goes back to my college career. I would say I had a very big head when I was at my first school. I've always been humble, but I just knew that I was good. And then I transferred, I was kind of in the college party scene at that point in time. I thought I could just come into this team and do whatever I wanted. And it was the biggest slap in the face. My coach
Mm,
didn't like me my first year, had bad relationships with some of the captains on the team. I was disrespectful because I wasn't getting the playing time I wanted. And I really realized between my junior and senior year, like, oh, like God is really trying to humble me and show me, he's trying to teach me something here, right? So that's when I would say my faith actually turned around a lot after the national championship game. And I decided to really commit to just, being better. Everything was about the Lord. It wasn't about me anymore. Changed my life. I mean, my senior year, I got to be a captain. I ended up breaking my hand, and I didn't get the playing time I wanted, but the role I wanted, I did have, and the voice I wanted, I did have, and my life reflected what I wanted it to be. So that's when my humility started. Now, in terms of being grounded while I'm trying to build everything, every business is going to be overwhelming when you have a large organization. It's just true, but some a lesson that I learned being around my mentors for sure is number one, the most successful people in the world move faster than anybody else in the world. They take massive action and they take it very quickly. They don't mess around. It's sometimes I feel like people brag about, oh, I have 500 unread messages in my phone. It's like, well, the most successful people I know, one comes in, boom, take care of it. This comes in, take care of it. Take this call, do this. Like they
absolutely.
don't put things off. They just get it done when it comes right in front of them, right? And then they move on to the next. So I would say acting with speed. And then in terms of being grounded when I'm like just burnt out and overwhelmed, it's journaling, reading my Bible, and then honestly, just like finding you have to have hobbies and interests outside of just business, or you will drive yourself into the ground. So maybe it's spending time with my family, hanging out with friends, going to a concert, just having something to just get my brain off of business is kind of how I tend to keep myself grounded.
Oh, but it sounds like you got a solid grasp on it, and you've kind of learned over time for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely.
and when it comes to your faith, you speak a lot about your mentors. Are these the same ones or different ones that allowed you to live with them? Um, like when you first
Yeah, they're
graduated
the same
college and stuff
ones.
like that.
Yeah, they're the same ones. I have quite a few in my life now, just in different areas, but the ones I've talked about up to this point are the same mentors.
Okay, awesome. So have you always had this like a faith in God, or did they kind of like instill that in you, or and like kind of show you? And were you pretty receptive at first? Were you like, or like how did that, Uh,
Yeah, great question. I always had a faith. I grew up in a Christian family, but I would say it was kind of lukewarm. Like, in high school, it got very deep, probably the deepest it had been up to this point in my life. But when I got to college, I kind of lost everything. Like, I wasn't really with people that were like, hey, let's prioritize church this weekend. Instead, let's go party and yada yada, right? So college is where it just tuned off for me completely for like 3 years. I still believed in God, but I didn't really care. And then after the national championship game, most people would think you're like on this high and it's the best thing ever. And it was in the moment. But when I got back, I was in my room. I remember it being dark and I was like, man, I have this huge void, like this huge hole, and I just broke down crying. First time I like knelt and prayed in forever in my life beside my bed, and I told God, you know, show me my purpose, and I'll give it all to you. Like I'll lay it at your feet. And the next day was actually when I was on the phone with my now mentors that I've been talking about. So I knew that they were God sent. And yeah, I mean, that's when I was so open ears, started going back to church, apologized to my coach, you know, I stopped my party habits, all those things all at once. And then living with them just escalated, you know, my spiritual awareness, my wisdom, my discernment so much. But yeah, that's kind of my faith journey in a nutshell.
No, absolutely awesome. So when it comes to you at that moment when you were, getting regrounded in your faith and kind of laying everything down um at the feet of God, how did that look when it came to like your surroundings and your friends and stuff? Did a lot of that have a giant shift? And did you have to kind of just stop, or were some of them receptive and on the same page, or what did that look like? And then what does it look like today when it comes to surrounding yourself with like-minded
Yeah.
individuals like we need to, right?
Yeah, great question. It changed completely. Actually, as soon as I made that decision, that's kind of when I started getting into entrepreneurship too. So I got made fun of for making content. The same friends wouldn't invite me to anything anymore. I didn't get invited to any of the parties. I was by myself a lot. You know, I it changed everything. And I definitely went through like a lonely season for a little while, but then God kind of started to shift everything and put the pieces together. And that's when I realized like I'd rather be by myself than be in an environment that didn't serve me. So I actually got way healthier, started going to a church in the city that I was in. I moved out to Dallas. I was around them, around their network. And then, you know, now where I'm at, my discernment and who I'll spend my time with is so specific. Like if it doesn't serve my future and where I'm going, then it's not going to be a part of my life. I try to even keep, you know, what I watch, what I listen to down to like a very specific, you know, thing. I would say, you know, it's so we all hear it. It's the cliche, you're like the top five. You're going to be like the five people you're around the most, but it really is true. You know, what you want your income to look like, what you want your faith to look like, what you want your relationships to look like. You have to surround yourself with people that have the exact same things you want, or they're pursuing the exact same things, or you're just not going to have it. It's the truth. So I try to make sure that I'm constantly around people that actually push me and make me better.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. I guess I've had similar experiences along the way. You tend to get caught in the habits around others, especially when you feel like the people you're with are kind of all you have. Like you said you're in college, like that was your surrounding, and those were the people around you and their habits. Like I fell into the same thing. Going out like far too much, also spending way too much money that I didn't have, and just building habits that were in no way, shape, or form beneficial for me. And I think the big word in that is probably discernment. Right, like discernment, just is like the wisdom, the calming spirit, the uh very loud voice that'll that'll talk to you and guide you whenever you're in a certain situation, and to be able to decide what is good for you and what is healthy for you, not necessarily expedient and stuff like that. And that in itself will trickle into everything, not grab at the first shiny thing that you see, or anything when it comes to being expedient.
Yeah, 1000%. I would totally agree
Yeah.
with that.
Absolutely. So when you were searching for, like these more physical aspects and trying to stay active in sports and stuff like that, how did you kind of stumble upon like the high rocks? Is that something like you're trying to pursue, or it's just something you wanted to try? Like what kind of physical activities do you enjoy doing now?
Yeah. So honestly, it was just something I wanted to try. I was like, why not? I don't want to run a marathon. I don't love running that much. I don't want to be a bodybuilder. I don't like how that looks. So I was like, cool. I've heard this thing called hybrid training. Let me try high rocks. It looks fun. So after basketball, I would say I kind of just lifted regularly and I would start running. And then I feel like we just coined this nickname hybrid training. And that's kind of, I was like, oh, I guess I'm kind of doing that already. So
Yeah.
one of my friends, Kelsey Lensman, shout out Kelsey. She's awesome. She has a really, really cool brand and business. But she was like, hey, we're doing High Rocks in Washington, D.C. You should totally come. And I was like, you know what? Cool. Let's do it. Sign me up. So I
Wow.
just started
Just
training. Yeah. She was my
okay.
trainer. She had me on a little plan there. Followed it. I was in incredible shape. Should probably start doing that again, honestly. And I loved it. It was so fun. I actually found Lucy Davis. I'm sure you know who Lucy is through
Hmm.
just watching High Rocks content. And funny enough, I'm warming up and I was like, why are there cameras everywhere? And Lucy comes walking in. I was like, no way, I'm about to compete against Lucy. So I have this video of me like trying to pull this sled and I'm like struggling and she's just repping it out right beside me and just takes off. I was like, awesome.
Oh
So
man,
that
that's
was
insane.
pretty cool though.
Yeah, I mean, I would imagine as a like a competitor in that moment too, like you are seeing people who have committed everything and this is what they do, right? And it's
Yep.
just that intensity is just insane, for them being there. Um, would you say you'd be interested in doing one again? Like, is
Oh
that
yeah.
something? Because you said you like, easy decision.
Easy. I really want to try doubles. I think doubles would be so much fun. So I would do single again for sure, but I want to try doubles.
Oh yeah, the woman I spoke to yesterday or 2 days before, Delaney, she said I think she's got like 3 High Rocks competitions planned or something. She said doubles are a completely different vibe, and she says they're like way better. Like
Yeah.
maybe not better, but the vibe is significantly
Oh,
more
probably because you're
different.
not dying. Like I remember everybody just being like, "Come on, we can all do it. Like, let's go."
No, yeah, absolutely. Um, After the fact that when you did it, was it like a whole team? Did everybody who you went with do it like as a single, or did other people do doubles as well?
Everybody did singles except for one couple that was there. So it was really fun. It was so much fun. It was all people I hadn't really met before too. So it was such a cool time to like get to know their people, expand my network a little bit too, while obviously being competitive again.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Um, you said you would not be interested in doing like a marathon or something like it's not really like like an interest.
See, the way my mind works is I can't
Let's
just
hear
commit
it.
to like doing something simple. Like I wouldn't be like, "Oh,
Okay.
let me do a half marathon." I'd be like, "I can't do a half. Like I have to do a full if I'm going to do it. Like I can't do a half
Mm,
Ironman. I got to do a full Ironman." So I hate that my mind,
okay.
but we'll see. I mean, right now I have no desire to do that. I definitely want to do another High Rocks, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I do a marathon
Yeah.
or not.
I got you. I know. I agree. I think mine might be a little bit different in the aspect. I enjoy more of the difference and different stimulations, right? So I'm running,
Yep.
then I'm pushing, then I'm pulling, like the
Yep.
constant because I come
Yep.
from a more CrossFit background. So it's
Okay.
ever changing. Just the constant, of like a marathon. I'm like, all right, this is a little monotonous, a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
monotonous and stuff. But no, I agree. I would prefer doing something a little more
Yeah.
constant and back and forth.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, so if you have to say when it comes to your training and uh, like building your habits and habit stacking and stuff like that, is there any type of other content that you enjoy that you kind of get a lot of like wisdom from? Like, do you like read books? Do you podcasts? Are you a big podcast person? Do you listen to those as well? And then like, what do you typically get from those?
Yeah, I would say I try to consume all different types of medium, however you say that. I 1000% read books. I think books are key because I like podcasts, but to me, podcast is whatever someone's typically thinking at the time, where a book is actually the true knowledge that that person has gained over their lifetime. So I find books more educational or valuable. I'll typically listen to an audiobook over a podcast because of that, unless it's an
Mm,
episode of something I really, really want to learn about or hear about, right? So I'm definitely audiobook first. I am a YouTube junkie when it comes to if it's fitness, I love watching fitness vlogs. If it's, business, I feel like it's just fun to me. I'd rather watch YouTube 1,000 times over watching a Netflix TV show. That's just how I am. But yeah, I would say again, books, audiobooks, then would be YouTube videos for me. And I would say last is podcast, but I still like podcasts.
okay. No, I agree. I agree. So with all this and it's like a spider web. You're trying to run a business and you're doing, maintaining your health and your spiritual well-being, all this. What would you like for as far as like future goals? Like, what is it you want? Because you put out really good content. That was the first thing that I was driven to. So what are some future goals and aspirations that you would have and want for your page and your business and your fitness and stuff like that?
Yeah, I think, my biggest goal is to just have an incredible family, be able to give back to my family and make sure all of that is really tuned in. That's my biggest goal. Second would be, just using my platform to glorify the Lord and bring more people to Christ just through business and whatever I do, right? I think a lot of people think, well, I'm not a pastor, I'm not this, like how can I have influence? Where you could post one reel and reach 10 million people. So I would say my biggest goal is to build a personal brand that just helps people find the Lord, but also find themselves and find that passion to create a life of freedom, whether it's business or whatever it may be. So expand my influence. And then I think from a business standpoint, I really want to get into, venture capital, pouring into small businesses, helping people build and scale what they want, being a business coach one day. But I think I have a
Awesome.
lot more to learn before I dive too deep into that. So eventually, yeah, that's kind of my end goal. Have an incredible family. I want to really, really impact through my personal brand, speak, do all the things. And then lastly would just be building businesses that I believe in.
Awesome. 100%. No, jot down all the goals. You'll
Yeah.
definitely achieve those for sure. And then if you had to say, through your journey and stuff like that, what's something you believe that you have been taught and that you're doing well as far as habits and stuff? And then what's something you would like to work on? So like lessons learned, and what's something you're trying to learn and develop into your
Yeah.
life?
Yeah. I would say something that, I feel like I do very, very well is building and scaling teams. And pouring into people. So I'm very consistent with that. Waking up, making sure all the pieces are together there, making sure everyone's good, those kind of things. Personally, something I do well is just my routine on a day-to-day basis, and then making sure I'm doing reflection. That's just a non-negotiable for me. But something that I can work on, I would actually say right now probably is, my fitness and being insanely intentional about prioritizing my health through everything. I think everyone probably goes through that a little bit in the summer and fall time, but maybe had a couple too many boat days, or I'm like, oh yeah, let's go do this, and I go out to eat. But yeah, I really want to get my fitness in check. I want this. Everyone calls it like the winter arc. I want this winter to be
Yeah.
like
Yep.
the peak level of fitness that I've ever reached. So that's something I'm about to start getting really, really intentional about.
Heck yeah. No, that sounds awesome. Definitely will be tracking for your progress and stuff like that. It's always
Hold me
good to
accountable.
yeah, 100%. It's always cool to see everyone's progress and stuff like that. Especially when you put it out there.
Yep.
Like one
Yep.
of the other persons I interviewed, Kat, she was like, well, my goal is to do a marathon. She's like, well, now it's out there. I'm like, all right, we're gonna,
Yep.
I'm gonna be tracking for that. So accountability, especially in like the, social media space is, super cool and I think super beneficial because it is awesome to have like-minded individuals around you, even though they might not be directly with you all the time, but a little message or a like or a comment, goes pretty long ways, especially in today's
Oh
world,
yeah. Absolutely.
100%.
Necessary.
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, just so I can kind of pick your brain and, see a highly operating individual. It's super cool to talk to someone operating at a high caliber, and it kind of just shows that like you can always do something a little bit better. You're never there, you never arrived, and there's always something to be chiseling at, whether that be physical, spiritual, mental, financial goals.
Yeah, 1000%. Always be coachable in the areas you need it the most. I have a thing called our 5 F's: faith, family, finance, fitness, fun. And, just auditing yourself on where am I in this, not just today, but this week, this month, this year, and filling those buckets, because I feel like sometimes we get so caught up in, I need to make more money. I need to have more of this. I need more followers. And it's like, Well, realistically, if you don't have your family or your health, but you have those buckets full, life is a very well-rounded thing. You got to have all of it in some capacity, right? So, yeah, I think it's super important to, like you said, you never arrive. You got to keep working on all of it.
100%. And something, reminded me as you were talking, that I've been told is, you can want a million things. You and I can want a million things. I'm like, dude, I want this kind of house. I want this. But the saying I heard is a healthy man wants 1,000 things, but a sick man only wants one thing,
Yep.
right? All he wants is to be healthy.
Yep.
And it's same thing from like a small level. If I have a stuffy nose, I'm like, oh,
It
all I want
literally.
to do, oh, it's the
Yep.
worst thing. All I want to do is breathe. And
Yeah.
same thing. I think it goes, and it just serves as a reminder to uh, just step back every once in a while. Look at
Yeah.
where you are, and just it's easy to just glamour and see everything that you want and do, but I think that saying for me, honestly, that holds me accountable a lot. I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
want this, and I'm like, actually, I'm good.
Yep.
I'll be all right.
Yeah.
You know.
No, absolutely.
Nice. But all right. Well, I'll be checking for your progress, and we'll, make sure we're hitting those goals and everything. Hold me accountable too for,
Yeah.
you know, anything fitness and, podcasting content and stuff like that. But thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to come on the podcast today.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on.